This computer. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, formerly known as the 100 Yards of Podcast. I'm Omar Rashawn, Orha as always, and with me is my friend Marshall.
Hello.
Any thoughts?
No, I mean, we got an exciting slate today. We're gonna get this started here with a little bit of Tulsa spoiler action.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Tulsa has a chance to shape the group of five scene, at least maybe the whole college football landscape. And it started with their win on Saturday against SMU in a game where SMU blew a 24-7 lead. They just really shut down their offense after watching that. No one other than Cincinnati's been able to do. But this puts them in second place in the American. Remember, since UConn left the American, there are no more divisions. So it's just a straight 11-team conference. And it's a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. But what conference isn't this year? But Tulsa controls their own destiny to win or to at least earn a spot in the American title game because they play Cincinnati and they're undefeated in conference. So do you have any thoughts on Tulsa? So say a one-loss Tulsa team only losing to Oklahoma State wins out. Do you think you take them over undefeated Coastal Carolina or one-loss Louisiana who beat Iowa State?
I think you'd have to take them over Coastal for sure. I think because so they already have 2 ranked wins. They have a ranked win over UCF when they're 11, over now SMU when they're 19, and if they beat Cincinnati, of course, number 7. That's a really strong schedule.
Yeah,
That'd be strong in a Power 5 conference. You definitely put in Tulsa, in my opinion. I think that's a no-brainer.
I think it's tricky, because if they beat Cincinnati on December 4th, are you going to rank them above Cincinnati? Because I assume they'll be low 20s, high teens.
Yeah, no, they'd have to be at least top 15, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Let me pull up. I'm just looking at Coastal Carolina's schedule again real quick. Yeah, they have, one ranked win. They'd have, depending on, I guess, the outcome of Liberty's game, they could potentially have 2, but it's the slate. If Tulsa runs the gauntlet there, dude, they could be top 10 arguably, really.
That's a hot take. That is a very hot take, I think.
Think about it, dude. The teams they beat are good teams.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And it's kind of like a cannibalism type thing because that UCF win's going to look a lot better if UCF beats Cincinnati on Saturday, which is arguably the game of the day on Saturday. But it's if you're the American, do you want that?
At the same rate, though, wouldn't that also make a win against Cincinnati end up looking worse later?
See, it's a conundrum. It's it's circular. You can't really do much about it.
To be fair, though, do you think they even have a chance of beating Cincinnati?
Tulsa? Their defense looked to lead against Oklahoma State, and I know that was week 1. Take that for what it's worth. They looked to lead against SMU. Shane Buechele is leading the country in total offense for what it's worth.
One word, screw Shane Buechele. Okay.
Ellinger took over for him. I don't know how mad Sam Ellinger's having an amazing career. Brief aside there. But just looking at Tulsa, I think they can, but Cincinnati's just motivated. They're one of those teams that, there's something special about them. They have a mission and they know they got to play as good as they can to make the
team of destiny.
What was that?
Team of destiny.
I guess a team of destiny for sure. We'll see if destiny plays a role in canceling some Oregon or USC games or even Ohio State games down the line. Because that's what you take.
Dude, USC, if USC is in over Cincinnati, that is highway robbery. Dude, USC again, they're a couple weeks ago or last week, they irked out another win barely.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no way USC, is Pac-12 going to have a conference title game?
They will, yeah.
So dude, if it's USC and Oregon, dude, Oregon's going to just smack them all over up and down the field.
I don't know. I think it's a hot take because Oregon struggled against Washington State last week.
I mean, okay, well then either way, you can't put either of them over Cincinnati.
I do agree with that. I agree for sure. But again, Oregon's got that sort of like reputation from last year's like Rose Bowl team. Even the year before that, like Mario Cristobal has a reputation as being a great recruiter and coach. So it's hard to overcome that, even though Luke Fickell is great in his own right.
Yeah, no, dude, I kind of like their quarterback, that their new quarterback.
What's his name? I forget his name.
I don't know. Here, I'll pull it up real quick.
Pac-12.
But he kind of spins that thing.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of like the shift that Oregon's made, honestly. Like going from guys like Darren Thomas, Jeremiah Masoli, Marcus Mariota, I mean, who could sling it as well, but I mean, were great runners in their own right. To I guess more like
Tyler Shaw. I don't know how to say his last name.
Okay, that sounds familiar from
yeah,
a little bit. But
I don't know, in my opinion, he's kind of nice, dude. I watch out for him in the future.
Yeah, definitely. In a full season, once things aren't as chaotic, for sure. But even then, like Oregon's on the radar. I mean, their first game was on Saturday Night Football, so people are on the lookout for the Ducks, even though they're at 14, I think, in the AP polls right now.
11 right now.
11. Okay, they hopped a little bit. Okay. Well, I mean, in that case,
it's kind of an interesting topic though. It's like for a quarterback who's like a young quarterback like that, or like for any team, right? I wonder if like a short season like this is almost a good thing for them because it gives them a little bit of, experience in the game to develop, and then they can go really build on it in a long off season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but that's also like the reason we have like the new redshirt rule where it's like 4 games so you don't lose eligibility. Because Hawaii's got this guy, Chavon Cordero, who I think's only a sophomore. He's played 3 years, but he led like 2 come from behind victories in his freshman year, but still redshirted.
That's hilarious.
But speaking of, we've talked a lot about Cincinnati. There's a little debate in college football this weekend. East Carolina's coach Mike Houston had some words for Luke Fickell after he ran up the score in Cincinnati's 55-17 victory. And you can see the argument either way. It's like I'm pro Cincinnati all the way for the playoff, but I'll let you go first, Marshall. But I think it was out of hand, but I'll let you go first. I'll let you say.
I think they have every right. I think they should. I think they totally should. Like you talked a little bit to me before the podcast, the fake punt, man. The fake punt, I think that's stellar. I think it shows that you got all the tricks in the bag. I think it's tricky though, because it does kind of give away your play. Like say you're Cincinnati, say you get to like a good bowl game, or say you're even in the playoff, then they kind of know that trick now. Like they're going to be watching out for it. So I think that's a little tricky, but I mean, it's like when you see this playoff committee, you got to give up everything you got. Like every single score is going to matter, especially like if you remember, we're talking about the potential like illegal battle, It's like, say, for instance, this could come down to a margin in that. Like, say you're in court with, like, the college football playoff, it's like with the NCAA. You're like, man, I beat them every team, by 40, by 50. That's just kind of a good point to have on your side.
I mean, I see your point, and, I agree that Cincinnati needs every single style point that they can get. I totally agree with that. But the fake punt is where my contention lays because it's just gimmicky. You're showing up. Like, for me, it's like put in the backups or keep your starters and run your offense. If they can't stop you, they can't stop you. But a fake punt, well,
they couldn't stop them.
I mean, they couldn't, but it was a gimmick. It was a gimmick.
Omar, what's the difference between a gimmick and a regular play? Define for me a regular play then.
Not a fake punter field goal, because one intention is like you're either giving the ball away.
Okay, what about a flea flicker? Is that a gimmick?
If I run a flea flicker, my intention is to score, and you know that before the play that I could score. On a punt, I'm giving you the ball or field goal. Like I'm going to kick it. Either I'm going to concede in some fashion.
You're telling me that there's never been a fake punt before, that they should never be aware that it could score on that play? I
think you got to be like much of life, situational awareness is key. 32 with 7.5 minutes to go, not the time to go for a fake punt. It's not exactly the time when you're ready for a fake punt.
Exactly. That's why you do it. They're not ready for it. I mean, it's like if you see them lined up, loaded the box, and man coverage, you're gonna hit your guy on that route down the field. They're not ready for it.
But they did not.
What's the difference?
They snapped it to an up back. It wasn't that situation. Like I totally agree with that. If they're
I'm saying like just like in a general play, like say it's like second down, Like say it's like second down, someone's loaded the box, man coverage, your number one receiver 1-on-1 in the corner, like, you're gonna go try and hit him down the field,
Yeah, but even then, like, I guess I'm old school and I'm by the book. I just, I just think the fake punt, like, because the fake punt reminds me of this. This might come back to bite Cincinnati back because if you look back in the '80s, I know if you guys have seen Catholics versus Convicts, 30 for 30. They trace a history. In Gary Faust, the Notre Dame coach at the time, it was his last year. Yeah, it was his last game at Notre Dame before he left. He resigned, and Miami's like whooping Notre Dame up the field. They're up by like 30 or so, and they run a fake punt. And then, of course, a few years later, like 3 years later, they have the Catholic versus Convicts game where the blood is fresh. They could have awakened a slumbering East Carolina program without even knowing it, just for the playoff race.
So are you saying that they would have been slumbering and then made a comeback in the last 6 minutes, 7 minutes of the game?
I'm saying we might have a situation 3 years later where Coach Mike Houston remembers that, and in Cincinnati down the line, like I'm just saying,
Okay, but think about it. Like, yeah, 3 years later maybe, but it's like right now you got to put all your chips in. You're going all in for this thing.
I mean, okay, yeah, I agree, but go all in another way. Like if you beat them 49-17 as a playoff committee, you'd be like, oh man, just a 32-point victory. We can't. I mean, might as well go for two every single extra point then, right?
That'd probably be a good idea.
We got to draw the line somewhere.
I mean, assuming, that their make rate on 2-point field goal or on 2-point conversions is greater than 50%, then yeah, they should.
I mean, yeah, I know you're Mr. Analytics, man, but even then, like, there's lines. Like there's lines you got to draw. Like,
I mean, Omar, wasn't it you telling me that you would do, like, if you were a coach, you would do like a fake play on third down and instead do like a pooch punt?
Okay, well that's giving to the defense. Like that's not running up the score.
Bruh. You're over here talking about gimmicks and talking about all this stuff. Oh my god.
That's playing field position. We're playing
field
position.
Don't even give me that.
We're playing field position. We're playing for our defense.
This man is so out of line right now.
I am not. For the record, I did kick a 92-yard quick kick with a elite Tom Brady punter, Madden Mobile. It was amazing. I punt on first down in Madden. Yes, I'm a 1920s tactician when it comes to football. The quick kick works. Oh my God. The quick kick works. I still won the game. I won the game 35-10.
And that makes it better?
I think so. I mean, if I can win with a quick kick,
Okay, but let's look at it like from like a win probability perspective. You think when you kicked it to them on first down, you think that improved your win probability?
Marshall, how did the win probability work for Arizona State in week 1? How did that stat work out for you guys? I'm just saying, we both know it's a flawed statistics. Anything can happen. Bill's cards. Win probability is flawed.
Bro, it's not flawed. It's literally a probability. It's like, yeah, it's a high probability, but there's still a chance that the other team wins. That's how it works. Okay. That's how probability works.
Like I said, I'm old-fashioned. When it comes to fake punts, when it comes to quick kicks, I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, old-fashioned in that you don't understand probability either.
I passed my stats class here. Passed my mandatory stats class. I paid my dues, and I understand it somewhat. But it's just not what I do. I'm a historian.
Omar, we know a C is passing, but that doesn't mean you understood the material.
That's true. Yeah, that's as with many of the classes here at the academy, that is true.
To be fair, just for the listeners, I don't know if Omar actually got a C. I'm just roasting him right now. I don't want it to be put out there that Omar got a C in his stats class if that's not true.
B-.
All right.
Minus. Not too far off though. You're not far off. Well, speaking about the group of 5 picture for the New Year's Six, there's one conference that is literally probably crapping their pants right now. I'm just looking at it, and that's Conference USA, because Conference USA is probably the biggest mess out of any conference in college football. And just one look at their standings for those that will watch it. I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll just take a look at the Conference USA standings really quick. So you see here, the East, you have Marshall up top. That's great. But right behind him, you got Florida Atlantic, who looked great, especially on defense, allowing, I think that's 13 points a game, 65 in 5 games, 13 points a game. Offense, not so much. And then you got Charlotte, who's only played 5 games. Western Kentucky's played 9 games. Middle Tennessee, 8. Florida International's only played 4 games. 0-4. And then the West. Don't even get me started about the Western Division, as you have the UAB Blazers on top of the division due to win percentage at 2-1. They've only played 3 conference games. They played their four non-conference games, but only 3 in Conference USA. Behind them, you have a tie between UTSA and Louisiana Tech, who've played 9 and 7 games respectively. But why don't you look who's in 4th place? Rice only playing 2 games. And then after that, you got North Texas at 1 and 2 in the conference, only playing 5 games. Southern Mississippi only playing 8 games. UTEP playing 7 games at 3 and 4. So the division winner, pretty much, I think anyone is alive in the Western Division, and that should be a problem for Conference USA, because if we look, the ACC, they scrapped their divisions for the pandemic, which at the time I thought, man, that's pretty dumb. Like, I mean, how are you going to figure out like who's going to play in the conference title game without round robin play? But as the season unfolded, as we got many cancellations week per week, it started to make sense. And now looking at Conference USA, who like in regular years would not have a New Year's Six contender, but Marshall sitting at 7-0, just had another cancellation. I think they're playing 2 more games this year. Looking at them having to play an extra unnecessary game against a not so quality opponent, like I bet the folks at Conference USA are like pretty nervous right now for what's about to conspire on December 19th.
Oh, I totally agree. And it's like, I mean, especially in college football, and I mean, in all sports, it's like going back to a little statistics right here. The outcome of sports is probabilistic and not deterministic, right? So it's like, it's not determined on necessarily who's the better team. It's determined on, it's almost a roll of the dice. Yeah, one team may have a 99% chance to win, but surely in college football, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Like Marshall may be the best team in that conference, like by far, but it's like, catch them on a bad day, anything can happen. And then CUSA is screwed.
Yeah, like totally. I'm going to draw back on, I guess a parallel. Like you had the Big 12. Like there's tons of criticism for the Big 12 championship game coming back, because I know you as a Texas fan, like remember some of the nightmare games that Texas played in the Big 12 championship.
Hey, don't call me a Texas fan.
Oh, okay. You were a Texas fan. My bad. As a Texas fan growing up. Like 2009, Colt McCoy against Nebraska, against I think a 3-loss Nebraska.
Oh, I remember that game too.
Yeah, like that game had no reason to be played. I mean, really. Like, well, I mean, I guess it did have reason, but what was it going to prove? Like, and then as well, you have I think it was like 2003 where Oklahoma lost to Kansas State, like a 3 or 4 loss Kansas State team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kansas State lost to Texas A&M in 98, robbing them of a chance at the title game. 96, Nebraska lost to Texas, 4-loss Texas team in the first ever Big 12 title game. So, like, the thing is, you look at it, like, what is Marshall going to gain in terms of resume builder by playing a 5-4 UTSA team, or let's see who else, I guess 7-3 UAB team, or even like if it comes down to it, Rice is still alive in the conference. I think a 4-1 Rice team or a 4-2 Rice team. Like, it comes to the point where like, what do you even gain? How is that a resume builder?
Bro, I mean, 7-3. That's a nice record.
Yeah, but it's like it's not as much as
I know. No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. And you totally have the right point. It's like, I mean, the best thing for the conference is if they have, an undefeated, team that has a shot at getting in the New Year's Six. Like, end of the day, why risk it? Like, it's not worth the risk. I mean, it's like, it's just like a risk reward. The risk, you don't get in the New Year's Six, reward, you get a win over Rice. Okay.
Yeah. Even then, like, it's like risk, like you are reward, you get into the New Year's Six, like with a bunch of dominoes that have to fall, of course.
Sure.
It's the risk or the reward on the other hand, or the risk, and ending up getting relegated to like the Cure Bowl or the First Responder Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, let's not pretend like those aren't like 2 of your favorite bowls, but.
Oh, well, I mean, any person that doesn't like the Cure Bowl is a bad person, because that bowl is for breast cancer, right? Like, if you don't like the Cure Bowl, I don't think you're a good person. I just don't think you are.
Okay, but I get your point. We'll take the Orange Bowl over the Cure Bowl any day of the week.
I think so, and I know some Liberty fans were flexing last year. I mean, before this year, like the Liberty critics are like pretty quiet this year. Like, and I say that as a neutral third party. Do not attack me. Do not cancel me. But the Liberty critics were like talking like big crap after the Cure Bowl win, because like Liberty fans, they're like flexing like, oh man, like you guys doubted us. And it's like, all right, chill out. You guys had 2 wins over New Mexico State, all right, and a win over UMass. Like but I mean, Like it's like that. Like, that's what the Cure Bowl's for. It's like it's a step along the way. Like I remember 2015 was one of my favorite bowls of all time with Georgia State at 6-6, who they were given no chance in the last game against Georgia Southern. They ended up blowing out the conference, or I think the conference co-champs Georgia Southern, 34-7, out like totally random. Their opponent 5-7, San Jose State, in there because of academic progress rating. And so you have at the end the only bowl ever where both teams, or the first bowl where both teams had a losing record at the end.
Jeez.
Only in the Cure Bowl, folks.
Oh my Lord. But it's like you said, that's a good outcome because it's for breast cancer.
Oh, exactly. I mean, if you ate the Cure Bowl, like, I can't help you. I really can't. But moving on to our next topic, we have, a little bit of something we like to call the Mack Brown effect. And let us explain. So Mack Brown, of course, doing a great job, or I guess a good job. It was great at the beginning of the year. Good job in North Carolina, reviving the program. It's kind of funny. They wore the throwback uniforms for when he was first coach. I don't know if that's ever happened where you've had a coach who's had 2 stints and they throw it back to the first stint. Like that's a mind trip right there.
Do you know what they should do? Similar kind of feeling for Jim Harbaugh. They should wear the uniforms that they wore when he was a player.
Oh my gosh. That's a power move if you're a coach. Like, hey, we're wearing these uniforms from when I was first here. That's a power move. But the Mack Brown effect. So Mack Brown, the move got criticized to hire him because he hadn't coached in the ACC since the late 90s, mid to late 90s. Hadn't coached in general since 2013. But he's doing a good job there, taking over a program that was in shambles. Other programs have followed suit, surprisingly. I can't remember a time where this has happened otherwise. San Diego State, Brady Hoke, the infamous coach that doesn't wear a headset. You have him who, after a stint at Michigan, floated around the coaching world and then came back to San Diego State. And they're not struggling, but, they're just not really the talk of the Mountain West like they have in the past few years. And this is the worst case scenario where you have Utah State's coach, Gary Anderson, who came back after being fired from Oregon State back to Utah State. And it was just like apples to oranges, like the situation, the result, because you had, when Gary Anderson was first coach, Utah State became good, but that was because they're in a WAC conference that was about to disband. 2011, there was no Boise State. And Utah State went to their first bowl since 97, the 97 Humanitarian Bowl, turned the Potato Bowl. And then the next year, they were ranked for most of the year, almost busted the BCS, but that was in a WAC that had UTSA in their first year in FBS, Texas State also in their first year in FBS, Idaho when they were absolutely horrible, and New Mexico State when they were absolutely horrible. And that was a really top-heavy conference for a 7-team conference. A 7-team conference should not be top-heavy like that. But then, that's what got Gary Anderson out to Wisconsin. Then for some reason he left Wisconsin to go to Oregon State. Like, I don't know. Guess people like the West Coast. And then he came back to Utah State, and they went 0-3 this year after, last year they went to a bowl. I think it was, I forget what bowl they went to. But went to a mid-tier bowl, and then they started off 0-3. So, Marshall, are you for bringing back these coaches? It's kind of like the equivalent of telling your ex, I miss you, and then taking them back,
No, you're totally right. I think it's an interesting proposition. You have to, I guess you would be assuming, first it's unique in that usually and through a coaching career, you go to better programs. So it's let's say you started off at Toledo and then you went to Power 5 program or something. There's not really a whole lot of reason for you to go back to Toledo unless you're Big Cat in NCAA 04, it's what are you doing? Second off, it's you'd have to assume that. So if for them to go back to take a step down to your program, they'd have to be doing bad at that other program almost. And it's so why would you want a coach that's doing bad? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, honestly. Maybe it's a booster move, maybe it's obviously, the boosters are going to be an important factor in any coaching hire. So maybe it's a lot of boosters are really nostalgic or something. I really can't think of any good reason anyone would do this.
Yeah. I agree with the boosters. 'Cause North Carolina just seemed like a place where like the boosters, like, older guys, like whether it's like in the basketball program, like older guys remember the Dean Smith days, and they're just like, they follow the football program, and it's like, oh man, like Mack Brown,
They want to feel like they were young again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that. But I just can't believe the ability, like I guess the vacuum that some of these decisions, like the Gary Anderson one, like I mean, I thought it was cool. I'm like, hey man, Gary Anderson's coming back to Utah State, like that's pretty cool. But I also remembered, yeah, Utah State was good because the WAC sucked. The WAC was literally the '90s reincarnation. It was like the reincarnation of the Big West. Like in the Big West in the '90s, it was hardly a Western Conference. You had Arkansas State, North Texas, Idaho, New Mexico State, Utah State, and Boise State. And then
Premier programs.
Premier programs. Catch me playing NCAA Game Breaker '98. Trying to win some Big West titles. But it's like how can you make that decision? I mean, yeah, like he almost beat Auburn. The year after they won the national title, but Auburn went 6-6 that year. Yeah, he almost beat Wisconsin on the road, but Wisconsin went they had 6 losses that year. The first ever 5 loss team to play in the Rose Bowl, by the way. But still, it's like these decisions, yeah, they want to live their glory days, I guess, feel younger, but it's like you can't make these decisions in a vacuum,
Yeah, no, it just doesn't make sense.
Like,
it's funny though, on Mack Brown in particular, I read this funny quote on him right here. If you want to hear it?
Oh yeah, I want to hear Mack.
So on him, like recruiting. So from defensive back Rod Babers from the '98 class of Texas. Okay, he says this is what makes Mack Brown so good as a recruiter, right? He says Mack would be a great poker player or politician. He's insanely good at figuring out what matters most to a person. My mom wanted me to become the first person to graduate college. Mack guaranteed her that when he was on my couch. I knew that that was when my mom was sold on Texas. And then as he was leaving, he turned around and looked at me and said, Rod, we can't win a national championship without you. And that's all I needed to hear.
Dang.
Smooth.
It's smooth, man. I wish I could spit game like that. I'll be real. But, that's a personal problem. Like, it's not gonna. I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, for me, the one that would fascinate me, speaking of Mack Brown, I'd be fascinated if somebody got kicked, if he got kicked to the curb by North Carolina and somehow ended up back at Tulane. I think that'd be kind of funny. Tulane, he worked I wouldn't say miracles, but he did a great job at Tulane. Not better than Willie Fritz is doing these days, but it was something for sure at Tulane. I'd love to see that. But yeah, and again, I think just now that I think about it, another example is a former Tulane coach, Buddy Tevens at Dartmouth. So Tevens left Dartmouth for Stanford, and then got kicked around at Stanford. I think I forget where he went after, but he went to Dartmouth, and Dartmouth was a laughing stock in the mid to late 2000s, and now they're contending for Ivy League titles. And plus, Dartmouth's got the publicity from the no contact practices. I don't know if you know about the robot they came out with.
No.
They came out with a robot that's safer for tackling drills, and Ivies are leading the charge in player safety. It's great. But Buddy Tevens, that's another success story that we see in the Mack Brown effect. Perhaps it's the Buddy Tevens effect because he was doing it before Mack Brown was. I just think you can't make those decisions in a vacuum, because if there's one conference that exists in the vacuum, it's the Ivy Leagues. Nothing changes, no alignment, nothing. It's the Ivy League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, aren't they season postponed to spring right now? Is that what
No, they're not even doing spring season.
No, cancel completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad for me. I was supposed to, add more stadiums to my tour, to my Ivy League tour. But
what was on the docket?
On the docket this year, it's kind of sad because I never made my way out to Vienna Stadium or Kraft. I think it's named after Robert Kraft, but Kraft Field at Vienna Stadium in New York City. It's just an hour away, but it's not Franklin Field, Harvard Stadium, or the Yale Bowl with the history. So I just bypassed it. But I kind of regret not going, If I knew this pandemic was going to happen, it's oh well. And then also I think Princeton was on the docket too, so it's pretty close.
Okay.
But it's what could have been. I'll have to wait till I move as an older guy out back east after my Army career and, complete the tour, complete the work that I have to do. Moving on to our last topic, enough of the Ivy League talk, as much as I'd like to talk about the Ivies. I'm wearing the shirt for this occasion, but New Mexico State, they've scheduled some games, and They're interesting to say the least. The games are scheduled. They haven't played football in the fall. If you haven't noticed, it's okay because New Mexico State has something like 5 winning seasons since 1960 and of course 1 bowl appearance since '61. And they haven't played in the fall, so it's easy to ignore them. But they've scheduled in the spring Dixie State, Tarleton State, FCS Independence. They're still FCS teams, but their most recent game, they scheduled a Division II school, New Mexico Highlands, for whatever reason. And I mean, it's interesting. Yes, it's more football. It's more FBS football, and that's cool. But it's just like in this pandemic, you want to save money, and you're scheduling paycheck games in New Mexico State. Like,
Dude, it's because they really want to relive Cleveland versus Rio Rancho High Part 2.
oh gosh, shade. My goodness.
Dude, like, what in the world are they doing?
I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure. Like, I can't. There's not a reason for me because like it's not like New Mexico State has a lucrative TV contract. Like they're on Flow Sports and Aggie Vision. Like who's gonna watch these games?
And I mean, even on top of that, it's like the complications. Like especially like think of for the Highlands game, like the complications of where it's gonna be played. Because right now,
Exactly.
it's like the governor is not allowing any sports. So UNM moved their home stadium. Who are they playing at right now? Like who are they using as their home stadium?
Sam Boyd, the old UNLV stadium. Sam Boyd.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I don't even think NMSU has that opportunity. It's like where the heck are they gonna play? And then where are they gonna play an in-state Division II opponent? Bro, they're gonna have to like use a high school stadium or something. Like it makes no sense. They might go down to El Paso, use like an El Paso high school stadium. Like it's just like what are you possibly thinking? Paying money? No one's gonna go to that game. Is it a recruiting thing maybe? Like does this look better for recruits if they play a few games or something?
I mean, maybe. So one thing I was thinking with Dixie State and Tarleton State, so those are new members in the WAC in the next basketball season, new WAC teams. So maybe it's just their athletic director, Mario Mocha, who's done a phenomenal job since New Mexico State's been independent. I will give him that for sure in crafting the schedules, innovative ideas like the in-season home and home against Liberty that we mentioned earlier. But I think it might be like an olive branch type thing, like thank you for joining the WAC. Here's a spring football game. But otherwise, like, I mean, I'm scratching my head. Like
Highlands, New Mexico Highlands University. Omar, let the viewers know, for everyone that doesn't know, where in New Mexico is that located?
It's in Las Vegas, and I have experience playing on that field in a 7-on-7 tournament in high school. On one of their practice fields, actually, I batted 3 passes in a row. 3 pass deflections in a row. Like they kept throwing to me, and I kept having to, invite them to Borja Island. I kept having to kick them off.
Oh my God!
So I have fond memories of New Mexico Highlands University. I don't know if the Aggies fans do, but I know I for one do.
I mean, I could totally see a scenario where they get upset by Highlands too.
I think that's a stretch, man, because it's D2. Like, I mean,
yes, but think about it. Like, those players are gonna walk in there and they're gonna be like, "What the hell are we doing here?" Like those Aggies players are gonna be, "What are we doing?"
Well, I think they want to play, man. I'm sure the Aggies want to play. Like, because that's what they're there to do. They're there to,
They didn't go there to play school.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like Cardell, they didn't come to play school. I mean, they'll play anyone, even if it's a Division II school.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'll have to see where it comes out. Like, they got my attention. I might subscribe to Flow Sports just for those 3 games. Like, I mean,
maybe you have a point. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's truly like as a responsibility for the players. They're like, you came to our program to play football. We'll let you play some football.
I think so. Yeah, like even then, like, because I mean, I don't think the spring slate. Well, it is going to be loaded with college basketball and whatnot. Like,
yeah,
football wise, I mean, they won't have to compete with much. Like the few conferences that are doing spring schedules, and even then, I don't think any of like the schools, unless it's like North Dakota State or James Madison, have like a brand that rivals New Mexico State, just because New Mexico State plays FBS.
I might think that North Dakota State has a better brand, honestly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Because guess a little story from my travels. Went to their kickoff game at Target Field in Twin Stadium. and oh my gosh, it was packed with green and yellow. Like, and this was in Minnesota, like from North Dakota. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's a a long drive, but North Dakota State's synonymous with winning. That's what they do. But well, with that, I mean, I think we're done, and we'll be waiting for this weekend. Do you have any games to watch, or any final thoughts, Marshall?
Games to watch, I'd say you're not going to be watching Arizona State because they went ahead and canceled their game already.
Right.
Unreal. I would just see. I want to see another blowout by Cincinnati. I want to see another fake punt.
All right. I mean, I'm with you.
I don't know. I mean, what do you have on your games to watch?
So looking at it, I mean, I won't be able to watch TV because, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're gonna have cadets to be at the Army game. We've had some stuff up here happening, some extended measures being taken. Won't specify, but I think we'll probably be at the Army game. But if not, I'll be watching Big Noon Kickoff for Indiana Ohio State. Indiana only has 12 meetings in 85, or 12 wins in 85 meetings, I think. I think the record.
Make that 13 after this weekend.
Hopefully. I do think Mike Penix, if he beats Justin Fields, I think he's a front runner for the Heisman, but I don't want to jinx anything.
If they beat Ohio State, does that put them in the top 4?
I mean, I think you have to.
I think so too.
State's number 1, right? I mean, you got to put him in the top 4.
I think so.
But that's the Big Noon Kickoff's going to be huge, I got to make sure David's watching that. David being a big Ohio State fan. I can't tell him I'm rooting for Indiana, though. I think at 3:30 is another juicy period because you got Northwestern at 3:30. People are forgetting about Northwestern, honestly. I mean, Indiana's the Cinderella because they're Indiana, and but Northwestern, they kind of lose being the nerds. Pat Fitzgerald.
They're in the thick of it, though.
They are. And against Wisconsin, that game could realistically decide the West because they already beat Purdue. Purdue was 3-0. They were either 2-0 or 3-0 the previous week. Whatever it was, Purdue was undefeated. But that could decide the West. So at 3:30 on ABC, Northwestern gets the ABC.
Interesting matchup here. Potential ramifications, depending. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma.
Oh, of course.
6:30 on, I don't know, ABC. There you go.
Oh, ABC. Oh, that's Saturday Night Football?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Saturday Night Football.
That'll be interesting. If Oklahoma State wins that could make it – if Oklahoma wins it, that the Big 12 is not getting in. But if Oklahoma State can win in convincing fashion, that hurts Cincinnati. That
does. It really does. There's no other way around it, honestly.
Oh, you know what? And then we forgot to mention this very important matchup right here. Texas at Kansas.
Oh, canceled. Got canceled, man. But I guess in the night.
Luckily for the Longhorns fans, they don't have to witness another loss to the Jayhawks.
Oh man, I bet they're still reeling after 2016 because it's one of the biggest college football games there is.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude, Kansas 0-7, but Les Miles has those boys going in the right direction. All right.
No, man. No,
I'm low key. I'm kind of like a low key Kansas fan, honestly. If they start winning, dude, catch me on that bandwagon.
All right, man. All right, I'll mark your words. It's gonna be on the internet, but I'll mark your words. And well, I guess the last game I'm looking at, San Jose State. We were talking about them last week. They control their own destiny in the Mountain West Division. Big game against Fresno State because Fresno State's won 3 in a row after losing to Hawaii. So I'm kind of mad it's not in a late night slot as a standalone game, but I mean I'll be watching that one closely because I mean it's a story. San Jose State, even if they don't make the New Year's Six, they've never played a Power 5 team in the bowl. So maybe they get slotted in with the Power 5 school. But we'll just have to see. It'll be exciting.
Fresno State, future home of star Cleveland wide receiver Trey Watson.
Yeah, son of our debate coach, Michelle Watson. So shout out. But I guess if there's nothing else to say, I guess we'll sign off until next week, maybe not. Thanksgiving weekend, always tricky. But I mean, hopefully you'll be thankful for these podcasts we've recorded before. But until then, peace, love, and soul. See you.